Sup, you beautiful bastards? Hope you're having a fantastic Monday. Welcome back to the DeFranco Show, and let's just jump into it. And the first thing we're going to talk about today is why Kevin Spacey is in the news today. And why is the key word there, because depending on where else you get your news, you have seen drastically different headlines. Some reading Academy Award-winning actor Kevin Spacey comes out as a gay man, right? Maybe that headline makes you go, okay, good for him. He's an actor who made his way through the business at a time where the industry maybe wasn't as accepting. Okay, but then the other headlines read, Kevin Spacey apologizes for alleged sex assault with a minor. Now what's interesting, and what I will say I think is ridiculous, is that these two headlines are actually connected to the same story. And so the question you would understandably have at this point is, how? So let's dive into that. We're talking about this today thanks to an accusation from Anthony Rapp. You may know him from Star Trek Discovery, Rent. This is his story. In 1986, Kevin Spacey and Anthony Rapp become acquainted because they're both working on Broadway shows. And at this time, Anthony is 14 years old, and judging by this picture, looks even younger. One night, Spacey invites Rapp to a party at his apartment, and when he got there, Rapp said he realized he was the only non-adult there, so he got bored, he wandered into a bedroom, started watching TV. Then, well past midnight, Spacey came to the door, and Rapp realized that everyone else had left the party. Saying, my memory was that I thought, oh, everybody's gone. Well, yeah, I should probably go home. Rapp then said Spacey, quote, sort of stood in the doorway, kind of swaying. My impression when he came in the room was that he was drunk. Then Rapp says he picked me up like a groom picks up a bride over the threshold, but I don't like squirm away initially because I'm like, what's going on? And then he lays down on top of me. He was trying to seduce me. I don't know if I would have used that language, but I was aware that he was trying to get with me sexually. Rapp then says he remembers Spacey, quote, pressing into him, but then added that after some time he was able to get out from under Spacey and go into the bathroom, saying, I saw on the counter next to the sink a picture of him having his arm around a man. So I think on some level I was like, oh, he's gay, I guess. Then I opened the door and I was like, okay, I'm going to go home now. He followed me to the front door of the apartment, and as I opened the door to leave, he was leaning on the front door and he was like, are you sure you want to go? I said, yes, good night, and then I did leave. Rapp then saying he had not addressed the incident with Spacey and describes how difficult the rest of his life was as a result, especially since soon after the incident, Spacey's career began to take off and he saw him everywhere. And so after the allegations came out against Spacey, he released a statement on Twitter, writing, I have a lot of respect and admiration for Anthony Rapp as an actor. I am beyond horrified to hear his story. I honestly do not remember the encounter. It would have been over 30 years ago. But if I did behave then as he describes, I owe him the sincerest apology for what would have been deeply inappropriate drunken behavior, and I am sorry for the feelings he describes having carried with him all these years. This story has encouraged me to address other things about my life. I know that there are stories out there about me and that some have been fueled by the fact I've been so protective of my privacy. As those closest to me know, in my life I have had relationships with both men and women. I have loved and had romantic encounters with men throughout my life, and I choose now to live as a gay man. I want to deal with this honestly and openly, and that starts with examining my own behavior. Kevin Spacey. And so coming out of all of that, I just have to ask, how the fuck do you get the headline, Academy Award-winning actor Kevin Spacey comes out as a gay man? We're talking about two separate stories here, and one is more important than the other. I mean, what we're talking about here, and I'm not sure what month this happened in 1986, but what we're talking about is a man who was 27 years old at the time inviting a 14-year-old to a party where he allegedly gets drunk and on top of a 14-year-old boy grinding into him. And your response is, God, I'm sorry, I was drunk, and oh, by the way, I'm gay. Preying on a child has no connection to being gay, and the fact that you would pair this together as if that should change the conversation, it's ridiculous. And in general, the gay community has been outraged at Kevin Spacey's statement. Wanda Sykes tweeting, no, 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 you don't get to choose to hide under the rainbow. Kick rocks. Dan Savage tweeting, nope to Kevin Spacey's statement. Nope, there's no amount of drunk or closeted that excuses or explains away assaulting a 14-year-old child. Cameron Esposito tweeting, just want to be really fucking clear that being gay has nothing to do with going after underage folks. And there are a few final points I want to make here. To people like Kim Richards, who in response to Kevin Spacey's statement wrote things like, if true, acting on impulse while inebriated speaks to overindulgence, not predatory behavior. You're good and decent, deserving forgiveness. Being drunk, being inebriated does not excuse your actions. Last time I checked, if you got drunk before committing a crime, still a crime. If you got drunk and then slept with your significant other's best friend, you don't get a mulligan. I'm just saying you don't get to unfuck Cheryl just because you were drunk. You did it, alcohol didn't transform you into a different person, so you are still responsible. But that's where we are as of right now. It'll be interesting to see what happens as this situation develops. I mean, one, on the career end, are we going to see people starting to distance themselves from Kevin Spacey? We learned in the last day that the last season of House of Cards will be season 6, but that may not necessarily be connected with these claims because they're reportedly still in production of the series. So that might not be connected. It'll also be interesting to see how that series is received. And then on the accusation front, it'll it'll be interesting to see if this is a lone accusation or, like the other stories we've seen in the news recently, if this is the first of many. But that said, what's your personal takeaway on this? Do you think that his excuse is enough, or no, this is ridiculous? What are you thinking and why? Let me know in those comments down below. But from that, I want to share some stuff I loved today, and today in Awesome brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace, of course, a fantastic place to make a beautiful website with their intuitive and easy to use all-in-one platform. You've got nothing to install, patch, or upgrade ever. So if you want to make the smart move like many from the nation already have, go to squarespace.com/Phil, start your free trial, and if you really like it, use offer code PHIL for 10% off your first purchase. And the first bit of awesome today is, remember, if you're a member of DeFrancoElite.com, we are having our live end of the month town hall today. We'll be talking about the show, how it's doing, where it's going. We'll be taking questions. If you can't catch it live at 4 p.m. Pacific, the VOD will be immediately available right after. Yeah, see you then. Then I want to send some love to Steven Suptic and his beautiful bastards over at Sugar Pine 7. They, of course, the group that beat us out for the streamy show of the year. And part of it, long story short, Steve had to shave his head. When everyone was trying to get votes to win, that was something he put out on the table. And it just put the finishing touch on it. I shaved his head. I'd be lying if I said it didn't give me a little bit of satisfaction. Then we got a launch trailer for Star Wars Battlefront 2. Then we had Jesse Wellens and Casey Neistat working on another Halloween video together. You might remember last year Jesse did his awesome Silver Surfer costume. Well, this year they made a levitating Star Wars speeder costume. And the last and most important piece of awesome today is we got a trailer for The Last of Us 2. Also, if you play video games and you don't know why that is so exciting, oh my god, do whatever you have to do to be able to play some Last of Us. Amazing gameplay, amazing story, underappreciated and fantastic multiplayer. I can hardly wait for this thing to come out. And if you want to see the full versions of everything I just shared, the secret link of the day, anything at all, links as always are in the description down below. And then let's talk about Facebook back in the news for a reason that's popped up several times in the past few years. People are once again accusing Facebook of listening in on their conversation. For years, and you may be included in this, people have come out saying that they noticed that they were getting ads in their news feeds that seemed somewhat connected to conversations they had recently had. And so these suspicions have led many people to believe that sites like Facebook use the microphones in your devices to listen in on your conversation, and then they use that information to place relevant ads on your news feed. For example, there's a video from last year, a guy mentions a cat, days later he gets cat food ads. And if you look back, a lot of these complaints started coming forward after 2014, and that was because they launched this new audio recognition feature. The feature reportedly listened to background music or TV shows so you could add what you're listening to or watching to a status update. In less than a month after it launched, the company had to issue a denial saying it was, quote, not always listening. Facebook had a security infrastructure at the time saying the microphone doesn't turn itself on, it will ask for permission. Adding the raw audio never leaves the phone, and the data about the match is only stored if you choose to post it. And then in 2016, more closely to what we're talking about today, Facebook denied that they were listening in and posting ads based on what you were talking about. In a statement they wrote, Facebook does not use your phone's microphone to inform ads or to change what you see in news feeds. Some recent articles have suggested that we must be listening to people's conversations in order to show them relevant ads. This is not true. We show ads based on people's interests and other profile information, not what you're talking out loud about. We only access your microphone if you have given our app permission and if you are actively using a specific feature that requires audio. This might include recording a video or using an optional feature we introduced 2 years ago to include music or other audio in your status updates. Then most recently on Friday, PJ Vogt, host and editorial director of the podcast Reply All, asked his users to share their experiences about Facebook spying. And to this, Facebook's vice president of ads, Rob Goldman, responded, I run ads at Facebook. We don't and have never used your microphone for ads. Just not true. Then when he was asked, does this include Instagram? He replied, yes. But still what we ended up seeing in response to that original tweet were a lot of people sharing stories where they said they talked about something and then they were served an ad. People saying they were getting served ads for washing machines, whiskey. One of the most specific claims involved a toilet roll holder that holds your phone as well. So the question becomes, well, how can you explain that? Well, some experts believe the most likely explanation is that it's just all a coincidence. Many of them blaming it on what is known as the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon, otherwise known as the frequency illusion. It's a form of cognitive bias, our tendency to assign more importance to things than they deserve. It suggests that after learning some bit of new information, we start noticing it everywhere else. The idea being you probably ignore most of the ads that you come across in your feed, right? But every now and then you might come across one where you had a recent conversation about it, and so it stands out to you. And because it seems a little too accurate and the conversation is still fresh in your mind, you think there has to be a bigger explanation for this. And another potential explanation for this is Facebook's algorithm. Facebook has employed top-tier computer engineers, and Facebook, I believe, prides itself on knowing you more than you know yourself. They use things like your browsing history, your Facebook interests to target ads. And even if you don't feel that you've given Facebook enough data to target an ad towards you, its algorithms may be sophisticated enough to suggest things that you might be interested in. I mean, you might remember some of those stories where Facebook started delivering gay ads to someone who was not publicly out. So that's where we are right now. And I actually want to pass the question that was asked in this story off to you. Do you think that Facebook is listening in on you, or no, there is a better explanation? And then let's talk about the Trump, Mueller, Manafort, Gates, Papadopoulos news. So what the hell is that news? Late on Friday, it was announced that special counsel Robert Mueller had brought his first charges as part of the investigation into the 2016 election. But a federal judge had ordered the indictment sealed until Monday morning, so there was just a whole weekend of speculation. Who's going to be arrested? What are the charges? The two main frontrunners, you had Paul Manafort, Michael Flynn. And now, because it's Monday, we know that Manafort was indeed one of those indicted, and the other was his longtime protege, Richard Gates. Now, before we get into anything, it is important to note that both Manafort and Gates have huge conspiracies revolving around them. But I do think that it is unproductive to jump into speculation, so we are only going to talk about what we know for sure. Also, to understand the charges, we quickly need to go over who Manafort and Gates are and what they do. So Paul Manafort, he's a lawyer, lobbyist, political consultant. He was Trump's campaign chairman from March until his resignation in August of 2016. He also didn't just work in the United States. Manafort had a history of lobbying and consulting for foreign nations, most notably for ousted Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych and his political party, the Party of Region. And the reason that's important is if you lobby for a foreign power, you need to register with the Justice Department as part of the Foreign Agents Registration Act. But Manafort only did that retroactively in June of this year. So this and his alleged dealings with the Russians, the Ukrainians, this landed him in hot water with multiple federal agencies. It was revealed in mid-2017 that Manafort was under investigation by the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, the Director of National Intelligence, and the Financial Crimes Unit of the Treasury Department. This since at least 2014 and on to this day. And then in August 2016, it was revealed that Manafort may have received $12.7 million in off-the-book funds from the Party of Region. And it appears that's what led to his resignation from the Trump campaign. But here's the thing, the probe about his dealings with Ukraine in the past have melded with the FBI's investigation into the Russian meddling in 2016. And as part of Mueller's Russian meddling investigation, he has the authority to prosecute any crime he uncovers during his investigation. So not just those connected to Russian meddling in 2016. So then on to Richard Gates. He's a protege of Manafort. Every single one of the crimes alleged against Manafort is also applied against Gates. He reportedly worked with Manafort throughout his time in Ukraine and onto the Trump campaign. In fact, he actually outlasted Manafort at the Trump campaign. Gates even worked on the Trump inauguration committee, and in fact, now he works at the pro-Trump advocacy group America First Policies. But additionally, the Trump administration claims that he had limited access to Trump. So then let's talk about the raid. On July 26th, the FBI raids Manafort's home. Reportedly, Manafort was out of the house when the FBI arrived. They searched his residence. It appears the FBI was searching for tax records, bank statements. It was also revealed by multiple sources that the FBI had told Manafort they planned to indict him. And the FBI is important to note here because reportedly they had been investigating Manafort before Mueller's team was even involved. Like I mentioned earlier, we're talking 2014, and according to CNN, Manafort had been wiretapped twice by the FBI. The first wiretap was by a secret FISA court order in 2014 and lasted until 2016. He was originally being investigated for possible tax law violations, money laundering, failing to disclose foreign lobbying, but it seemingly was shut down for lack of evidence. Then, in the second half of 2016, the FBI received another warrant from a secret FISA court to restart the wiretapping, and this time it was reportedly to focus on whether Manafort worked with Russian agents to meddle in the US election. And so that brings us to today. The charges filed on Friday are now unsealed, and it's been revealed that Paul Manafort and Richard Gates, of course, were indicted, and they were told that they need to surrender to the FBI. And this morning, what we saw is they both willingly surrendered themselves to the FBI. And the two have been charged with 12 crimes. Conspiracy against the United States, conspiracy to launder money, 7 different counts of failure to file reports of foreign bank and financial accounts, unregistered agent of a foreign principal, false and misleading FARA statements, and false statements. Now, a note that I want to make here is the conspiracy against the United States part. A lot of people have been calling that treason. That is not what this charge is. It's not connected to the election. It looks like it's connected to the intent to defraud the US government. This is connected to one of the heaviest charges, and that is conspiracy to launder money. That carries a sentence of up to 20 years. And so once again, to repeat, these charges are in relation to Manafort and Gates' dealings in Ukraine and Cyprus. They do not have anything to do with the election. Manafort was allegedly accepting money from the Party of Regions and siphoning it off to accounts in Cyprus. According to the indictment, quote, Manafort used his hidden overseas wealth to enjoy a lavish lifestyle in the United States without paying taxes on that income. As part of the scheme, Manafort and Gates repeatedly provided false information to financial bookkeepers, tax accountants, and legal counsel, among others. The indictment also claims Manafort laundered over $18 million. Gates is accused of transferring $3 million from offshore accounts, all seemingly to hide the money and not pay taxes on it. So, for those of you that were hoping that this was a Donald Trump takedown, that's really not what we're seeing here. In fact, there are reports that those close to Manafort and Gates say they have nothing to offer the FBI when it comes to collusion. This morning, we also got a reaction from Trump, who tweeted, "Sorry, but this is years ago before Paul Manafort was part of the Trump campaign. But why aren't crooked Hillary and the Dems the focus? ... Also, there is no collusion." And soon after that no collusion tweet, we got another update to the story. George Papadopoulos' sealed guilty plea from October 5th was released by the Department of Justice. And that guilty plea was for lying to federal agents. Now you may be wondering, who is George, this man with a beautifully musical last name? Well, first up, one, it's not this guy on Twitter. This man is a financial planner that unfortunately has the same name. His mentions, as you'd expect today, just a garbage fire. Secondly, the George Papadopoulos we're talking about here joined the Trump campaign as an energy and foreign policy expert in the spring of 2016. And he was later arrested in July 2017 for lying about his connections with Russian agents. He had claimed that he spoke with a Russian professor with heavy links to the Kremlin before he worked for Trump, but what it looks like now is he actually tried to arrange meetings with Russian agents who claimed to have dirt on Hillary Clinton. He told the FBI he had met with these people for different reasons before working for Trump, but he later admitted that he actually really met with them days after being part of the Trump team. So the bigger and actual story around collusion today is the Papadopoulos story. That said, it doesn't look like this proves what many people want it to prove. Following this story coming out, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the White House press secretary, gave a statement saying George was part of a voluntary advisory council that only met once, saying it was not important to the campaign at all, saying George attempted to implement these meetings but was ignored by the Trump campaign. So essentially the statement and argument here is that if George was doing this, he was doing it on his own. Although people have claimed that Sarah Huckabee Sanders, her statement was misleading, saying you can say that the committee only met once, but they were in constant contact with emails, and arguing that painting Papadopoulos as this person that's part of a volunteer committee wasn't really connected. To that, people argued no, that the Trump campaign, not only did they select him, but they featured him. In the last update before finishing this video, Manafort and Gates have now pled not guilty. And it'll be very interesting to see what happens from here. Is this everything they have? Is this the first of much more? I don't know, but I'd love to know your thoughts on this story. And actually, whether it be this last story, the first one, anything in between, let me know what you're thinking. And that's where I'm going to end today's show. And remember, if you liked this video, you like what I try and do on this channel, hit that like button. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Also, if you missed the last Philip DeFranco show, you want to catch up, click or tap right there to watch that. Or if you want to see today's brand new behind the scenes vlog, click or tap right there to watch that. But that said, of course, as always, my name's Philip DeFranco. You've just been filled in. I love yo faces, and I'll see you tomorrow.